Turmentic here. I'm in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Let's check out the actual real lore of Mothman. The Mothman is either a cryptid, a supernatural manifestation, or not of this world. Some eyewitness accounts even describe Mothman as being a very large bird. First seen in November 15, 1966, two young couples from Point Pleasant, West Virginia, told police they saw a large gray creature whose eyes glowed red when the car's headlight hit it. Described as a large flying man with 10-foot wings, the creature supposedly followed their car around what was called at the point the TNT area, the site of a former World War II munitions plant. During the next few days, other people reported similar sightings. Also reports of UFOs and men in black as well during the following year. Some reports were directly from the TNT area itself. No direct evidence was ever found except for the eyewitness accounts. So now that we have the basis of the real lore of what Mothman is, let's talk about the Silver Bridge. The Silver Bridge was built in 1928. It was a suspension bridge that connected West Virginia to Ohio. It collapsed December 15, 1967 during rush hour traffic. 46 people lost their lives. The collapse was said to have been caused by the failure of a single eye bar in the suspension chains. Analysis showed that the bridge was carrying a lot more weight than it was actually designed for. If you go to the site to visit the old Silver Bridge, there's a mural painted on the flood retaining wall now, showing you what it would have looked like had the bridge not collapsed. This tragedy not only rocked this small town but also the nation, and the collapse of the Silver Bridge led to the creation of the first National Bridge Inspection Program in the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1968. This memorial right here is for all of those lives lost. You see, the Silver Bridge collapse was not originally tied to Mothman. It wasn't until 1975 when author John Keel wrote The Mothman Prophecies that the bridge collapse was linked to Mothman. This was the book he wrote after years of investigating Point Pleasant and having some experiences himself. Because of Keel's book, popularity in Mothman soared. Mothman can now be found in comic books, television shows like The X-Files, card games like MetaZoo Cryptid Nation, but the most popular is still the 2002 movie aptly named The Mothman Prophecies. Now, there are a few very big differences between Keel's book that he wrote and the 2002 film with the same name. The events in Point Pleasant, for instance, happened in 1966 in reality, not in 2002, which was present day at the time the film was made. In the movie, 36 people died when the bridge collapsed. It was actually 46. The movie said the collapse of the bridge was never explained, but it was later proven that it was all because of the crack in the 13th eye bar. Now, what's interesting is that Keel did have some strange phone calls with odd sounds and warnings, but he had no interactions with Indrid Cold like Richard Gere did in the film. Also, the dream about Christmas presents floating in a body of water is true, but it was a close friend of Keel's that had that dream, not himself. During my investigation, I started realizing that I was being watched and I was being followed. So I tried to find my way out of the museum, couldn't find my way out. Every exit was being blocked. I finally was able to get through a door, and that's when I found this in the back. I wasn't sure what to do. It disappeared and then came back. As soon as I started to leave, I ran into another MIB agent, so I decided I needed to hide. This was the best I could come up with, but it seemed to have fooled them for now. But my time here at the museum, all it's done is just raised more questions. I decided that if I wanted to get some real answers, I was going to need to actually talk to the people who lived here. While exploring Point Pleasant trying to find more answers, I came across a shop that was open, Counterpoint. A t-shirt in the window caught my attention. Introverted but willing to talk about Mothman. Let's go and check it out.
Like, I grew up during that time, and I lived just across the river from where the TNT area is, where a lot of kids used to go hockey. And there were two young couples up there, and they saw something, and it chased their car. Now, they believed with all their heart. And when they went to the sheriff's office, they said that they had never seen people so frightened in their lives. So my whole thing is, who am I to question? Who am I to question that they truly saw something? And I will say, I was in junior high at the time, and there were some odd goings on. Like I say, I lived just across the river, and we would see some different things, and most of the people would not talk about it in our little town. It's like, they'll think we're all nuts. There were some odd lights over there on that little island that's there.
You're talking about the Men in Black then?
Well, I don't know. It was like flying saucers and stuff. I mean,
yeah.
It was not planes. It truly was, you know. And do I believe it? I believe it could be. Do I dwell on it? No. But there was something. There was something. We did not call it Mothman at the time. We called it the Big Bird. I was in 8th grade whenever the bridge fell. We never heard anything about the Mothman being sighted on the bridge. But do other people, but like I say, I grew up and I never heard this until the movie came out. We blamed a lot of happenings on Cornstalk's curse.
Okay.
You need to look into that.
Cornstalk's curse?
Yes, because there was the French and Indian War, and Cornstalk was a friend of the settlers.
This was the second time that I had heard about Cornstalk's curse, the first time being from the museum. Maybe we were onto something here.
And he said, this area will never prosper. This area will never prosper.
Wow.
And he's buried down here at Chivinaway Park. But look into it. The curse of
Is that
Cornstalk-
park close to here?
Yeah, it's just right down here at the end of the street. The younger people dwell more on Mothman. Us old people we go back to the curse of Cornstalk. And that was when the bridge fell. It's like, that's the curse of Cornstalk. He said we would never prosper. And then a few years later, our jail was blown up. Young couple's baby was found dead. He came down with a shotgun and a suitcase, walked in like he used to in the 70s, walked in the jail and he says, I'm staying with my wife. And he walked in, they put him in the cell with her, because of course they had a gun on him, and he then proceeded to shoot the suitcase, which was full of dynamite. So you just kind of keep going back. You go to the late flooding of the 30s, when water was half the way up these buildings, And it's interesting. We get a lot of people from a lot of places in here, and we love it, It's nice to see there's a lot of young people here that are doing these businesses. It's two young ladies that own this store. And it's great to see this little town busy again.
What's the name of the store?
This is called Counterpoint.
Okay, awesome.
This is all West Virginia made, most of it locally. There's a few other counties. Man just brought in all this pottery. trying to get stocked up for the Mothman Festival next month. It's great to see the business. It's great to see people. And if this week they haven't had the festival since before COVID, and you know, it's a boost in the arm to all these little shop owners' business. You know, so but you know, I love our little town. I want it to prosper. It's a great place to live.
The information Jackie had given me was amazing, but once again it just led to more questions. Who exactly was Chief Cornstalk? Was there a connection somehow between Mothman and Chief Cornstalk? I was determined to find out. After exploring around for a little while, we found a break inside of the flood wall. We walked in and looked at the view, and wow, what a view it was. It was beautiful. I almost forgot about trying to find out more about Cornstalk. As I turned around, I noticed that on the flood wall there were murals, paintings, large paintings depicting exactly what had happened. I had found an answer finally. Chief Cornstalk played a major role in defense of the Shawnee homeland. During Lord Dunmar's War in 1774, he was the primary Shawnee war chief. British officials successfully prevented Cornstalk from getting other natives to join him, so he was vastly outnumbered, 300 to 2,300 men. Cornstalk and the other Shawnees had the upper hand until colonial reinforcements arrived. Near sundown, Cornstalk withdrew across the Ohio River. He eventually negotiated to end the war. During the American Revolution, he wanted to remain neutral. In 1777, he went to Fort Randolph and was immediately imprisoned. When an American militiaman was killed by natives in the fort's vicinity, the soldiers killed Cornstalk. As he lay dying, he said the now famous curse, "I was the borderman's friend. Many times I have saved him and his people from harm. I never warred with you, but only to protect our wigwams and lands. I refuse to join your pale-face enemies with the redcoats. I come to your fort as your friend, and you murdered me. You have murdered by my side my young son. For this, may the curse of the Great Spirit rest upon this land. May it be blighted by nature. May it even be blighted in its hopes. May the strength of its peoples be paralyzed by the stain of our blood." Once again, after I got the answer I was looking for, I was just left with more questions. Is Mothman just a supernatural entity with no basis of explanation? Is Mothman possibly an alien from outer space, and that is one of the reasons why the Men in Black were here in Point Pleasant, along with all of the UFO sightings back in the 60s? Or is Mothman just the reincarnation of Chief Cornstalk, exacting the revenge that he told the colonists that he would enact? In truth, it seems that all of them are actually part of the legend of Mothman. On a chilly fall night in November 1966, two young couples drove into the TNT area north of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, when they realized they were not alone. What they saw that night has evolved into one of the great mysteries of all time, hence the Mothman legacy began. It has grown into a phenomenon known all around the world by millions of curious people asking questions. What really happened? What did these people see? Has it been seen since? But it still sparks the world's curiosity, the mystery behind Point Pleasant, West Virginia's Mothman.